Hi friends, welcome to Raising Lifelong Learners. I'm your host, Colleen Kessler, and this is the podcast where I encourage you to trust yourself and your differently wired kiddos as you help cultivate their curiosity, encourage them to discover the world around them, embrace who they are wired to be, all while helping them discover their passions, interests, and raise them to become the amazing adults they're meant to be. Hey, welcome back. This is episode 320. Today we're talking about parent burnout and fatigue, especially when it comes to all of the effort, compassion, energy we pour into our neurodivergent kids, and how sometimes that can lead to our own burnout and our own fatigue at being empathetic and compassionate all of the time. Trust me, you are not alone on this. Burnout is real, and we are going to dive into what it feels like, why it happens, why it's okay, and what we can do about it. First, let me say thank you to CTC Math for sponsoring this episode. We appreciate their support as well as the support that they give to the entire homeschool community. Check them out at ctcmath.com or through the link on the podcast show notes episode or wherever you're listening to your podcasts in the description. You'll hear more about them later on in this episode. But for now, let's get ready to talk about burnout and, compassion fatigue. Okay, let's go. Pop in those earbuds and let's get on with today's episode. Hey there, welcome back. Today, we're talking about something that doesn't get nearly enough attention in the homeschooling world. We're talking about parent burnout. We're talking about specifically the burnout that comes when you're homeschooling a neurodivergent child. I know that usually we're talking about all the ways that we can support our kids and all of the ways that we can make accommodations for them and meet them where they are, help them move forward, help them understand that their brains are beautifully wired and they're exactly who they're meant to be, no matter what that wiring is. But we don't always talk about the toll that it can take on a parent. And the truth of the matter is, most of us aren't simply teaching or planning lessons or checking assignments with our kids. Most of us aren't simply parenting our children. We are also acting as therapists, advocates, co-regulators, executive function coaches, accommodation specialists, social coordinators, occupational therapy assistants, physical therapy assistants, emotional support humans, and often the person carrying the entire mental load of the family. And if you're parenting gifted kids, twice exceptional kids, ADHD kids, autistic kids, anxious kids, or sensory sensitive kids, or any other type of neurodivergent kiddo, there's a good chance that you've experienced something beyond ordinary tiredness. And I want to talk about that today. That's the kind of exhaustion that sleep doesn't really fix. It's a depletion that taking a day off doesn't solve. And it's something that just doesn't completely go away. It shows up oftentimes as irritability, as numbness, as resentment, overwhelm, hopelessness, decision fatigue, and sometimes guilt because you love your kids deeply, but you feel like you have nothing left to give them. So today we're going to talk about the difference between stress and burnout, so you can start to identify when you're getting to that point that just might have you breaking apart. We're going to also talk about what compassion fatigue looks like. It's a form of the burnout I'm talking about, why so many homeschool parents of neurodivergent kids experience it, and practical ways that we can begin recovering through micro rest, through delegation, and through boundaries. And I want you to hear this before we begin diving deeply into this episode. Needing support, feeling burnt out, feeling that compassion fatigue that we're going to talk about, feeling guilt or irritability or any of the other descriptors that I just mentioned doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're human. So let's dive in and talk about this. Okay, so first of all, burnout isn't just about being tired. Many parents tell me, I'm just so tired. But often what they're describing isn't tiredness, it's burnout. Tiredness says, I need some rest. Burnout says, I just don't know how to keep doing this anymore. Burnout often includes emotional exhaustion. It includes a reduced capacity to keep going, chronic stress, a loss of joy, a feeling of being trapped, and feeling like you're always behind. And for homeschooling parents, burnout can sneak up slowly. You keep pushing because your child needs you. Your family needs you. There are lessons to teach. There are appointments to schedule. There are meals to make and crises to manage until one day you realize that you're just surviving your life and you're not enjoying it anymore. This is especially true when it comes to that mental exhaustion that I mentioned a little bit earlier and that mental load that you're holding. I know that the term mental load or silent load that parents are carrying is like a hot topic right now on social media. It's like a buzzword. And I want to talk about it because for parents of neurodivergent kids, especially homeschool parents or stay-at-home parents of neurodivergent kids, you can feel this really intently and keenly. I was just saying to my own husband the other day that I feel overwhelmed and completely and totally like I'm balancing all of the balls in the air or spinning all of the plates. And if I let go of any, everything would come crashing down because he doesn't fully know everything that's happening and everywhere everyone needs to be. I'll give you an example, and it was a frustrating example for me because I think that I've done a pretty good job of keeping organized and making sure that everybody can check at a glance as to where we all are. So we have a central calendar in our family, and it is connected to a Google Calendar that's shared. And not only does every single thing that our family has going on go on that calendar, but it also syncs to my work calendar as well so that I can easily show the different things that come up so I can see them when I'm making plans or trying to figure out appointments or therapies or other things for kids, but also so my husband and especially my adult kids, but also my teen kids can see as well when they want to make plans or something comes up that they want to do. So I don't always have to keep it in my head. And the thing is, it's usually in my head to some degree. And the thing is, it's usually in my head to some degree because I'm trying to keep everything organized and keep things from getting dropped. But it's still there so I don't have to answer all the questions for everybody else. And I was trying to talk to my husband about the fact that I had committed to an online conference to speak at it a couple times this week. So this is a current situation I'm dealing with as I'm recording this. And I said the 2 days that I am speaking at this online conference, I'm speaking dab smack in the middle of the afternoon, which is fine because typically I'm home, and he's a teacher, so he's home from summer break. And that it only takes, since it's at home, it only takes about 2 hours of time blocked out in my schedule because it's an hour-long talk, and I like to block out a half an hour before and a half an hour after in case I need to do any last-minute prep or wrap things up at the end. And so what has happened is I have 2 teens that are working this summer, neither of whom have their own cars, and so they need to be driven to their work or picked up from their work. And the time that I was speaking coincided with a time somebody needed to be dropped off and somebody needed to be picked up simultaneously. So I said to him that I'm speaking on these 2 days at these 2 times. And then on this 3rd day, I have a lunch meetup with a friend that I haven't seen in a very long time. And so I need you to make sure that you can coordinate either with our son, who is an adult driver and is living at home right now and has some availability, or you need to figure out how to get people to where they need to be and pick people up from where they need to be on these 3 days. Mind you, I do that kind of juggling every single day, just like almost every mom who's listening does. And he immediately said, who needs to be where? And our kids work in one specific place each. And so that's, to me, an obvious question. This one needs to be at this place of work and this one needs to be at this place of work. And then he went on to say what time and how long do I need to leave before they need to be picked up in order to get them. And all of this information is on the central calendar that is in his hand because he has his phone in his hand. And none of this information has changed all summer long. And I've gone out of my way to make sure it was on the calendar so these questions didn't need to be answered. And so I was feeling overwhelmed as I was standing there being asked these questions, because if we were having the conversation in reverse and he were to say, I'm not going to be home on these 3 days, so you're going to be on your own to make sure the kids get to where they need to be, I would just look at the calendar and figure it out. But while I was letting him know the same thing, he was then putting it back on me to give him basically an itemized itinerary of who needed to be where and when. And this is super common because one person in the household typically ends up being the person who makes sure that everything is on that central calendar and all of the appointments are made and everything is organized so that people can be where they need to be when they need to be there. But what ends up happening, especially when this is a parent who is also homeschooling and is specifically parenting and homeschooling 24/7, really, kids with special needs or are neurodivergent in any way, shape, or form, it adds additional layers to the whole situation and makes it extremely exhausting, because now that parent is not only managing all of the things that go along with managing and parenting and homeschooling a neurodivergent child or multiple neurodivergent children, but then needing to manage the other adult in the situation as well. It begins to feel like you're in survival mode all the time, and you begin to feel frustrated and tired and burnt out and even resentful of the people around you. It's normal to feel this way. What we need to make sure we're doing throughout our parenting and our homeschooling journey of neurodivergent kids is we need to be very conscious of what we need when we need it so we can advocate for ourselves, just like we're teaching our kids to advocate for themselves. So when we're talking about that, we want to also talk about and think about what burnout and tiredness and compassion fatigue looks like. So let's talk really quickly about compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue is slightly different than burnout. It happens when you've been caring for others for so long that your personal emotional reserves have become depleted. You still care, and you care deeply. You care passionately, you care intently, and you care with every fiber of your being, but you are exhausted by caring. This happens often when you're a parent of a child with multiple special needs, multiple neurodivergencies, and especially when you're dealing with children who also have medical issues and multiple doctor's appointments, and you're doing the bulk of the care. It can really reach its head when you're dealing with and parenting and caring for multiple children who have different special needs, different medical needs, all at the same time. And then if you have a spouse or a parent of your own or an extended family member that also, maybe they're aging or they have additional physical or mental or emotional support needs, you reach a point where while you care about everybody just as much as you've always cared about them, you are beginning to feel exhausted from the actual act of caring. You might start to feel emotionally numb. You might have difficulty feeling empathy towards the people that you normally feel extreme empathy towards. You might become irritated over small things. I have found myself doing this recently. This episode is just as much about healing for me as it is for you, because that irritability over small things when you're not normally irritated easily and you usually have this deep well of patience can be just demoralizing for yourself and for the kids who have come to count on you. I know I have been short-tempered around my kids recently, And it's not because of anything that they've done. I'm coming off of a couple of really challenging years with multiple health, multiple physical, multiple emotional, and multiple mental health challenges from the perspectives of several of my children, my spouse, an extended family member, and myself. And all of that has coalesced at the same time. And I've been the one holding it together and keeping everything moving. And it's hit now at a point where I'm so buried by some of the things that I'm normally really easily able to keep up with that I'm easily irritated and can be irritable towards people I'm not normally irritable towards. It also can show up as withdrawing from people. I tend to do this myself. I don't know if you do this, but my friends, my really good friends, know usually that I'm going through something when they don't hear from me for a while, because I just withdraw. It's just one more thing to reach out to somebody, which is why actually I'm doing that lunch. I'm doing the 2 online talks this week, but then I also still scheduled a lunch with a friend because I know that I need to get out and I need to see other people and connect on a friendship level with somebody. And I would very much default to staying home and reading a book instead of doing something that will feed my soul by connecting with a good friend. It also can show up as guilt, feeling guilty all the time, and then losing that patience faster. It's especially common for parents of neurodivergent kids because so many of us spend years and years advocating, researching, troubleshooting, accommodating, and co-regulating for these kids. Our nervous system never fully powers down, and eventually that battery gets too low. This is why parents of neurodivergent kids oftentimes end up with a chronic fatigue type challenge or a chronic health issue, because we just continually deplete our inner reserves and there's nothing left. It's really important for us to take care of ourselves. There's a book I read years and years ago. It's recommended to me often, even though I've read it. The Body Keeps the Score. There's so much truth in that book about how your body adjusts to what you're putting into your nervous system and how your nervous system can really affect your physical health. It's worth a read if you haven't read it. Neurodivergent families are especially vulnerable to burnout and to compassion fatigue because there are unique pressures. Many parents of neurodivergent kids are carrying that constant decision-making need. Every single day requires decisions about curriculum if they're homeschooling, accommodations if they're homeschooling or if they're not homeschooling, schedules, therapies, social opportunities, regulation needs. That's exhausting. And our kids can't always, they often, long after neurotypical kids, need support for doing some of the things that most of their same age peers are doing. Maybe they need help reaching out to a friend to schedule a time to get together. Maybe they need support making a doctor's appointment because something's going on with them and they're over the age of 18, but they just don't know what to say on the phone or can't quite make it make sense. Maybe they need support in scheduling a different kind of appointment, a coaching session or a therapy session or whatever. They need more scaffolding than neurotypical kids, and it's up to us to give that to them. But then again, that can continue to deplete our stores. We also are dealing with continuous co-regulation. Our kiddos' nervous system often relies on our nervous system. And so that means that when they're dysregulated, we become their anchor. We become their support system, their soft place to land. And there's a beauty in that. There's an absolute beauty in being the most trusted person in your child's life so that they know they can come to you and they can unload and they can whine or rail at the world or complain about something or just melt down, and you're going to be there to help them regulate, pick them up, and help them see what's still good about what's happening in the world and in their lives. But what that means is you're continuing to pour mental effort and emotional effort and support into your child to help them get regulated so that when they leave you after you've helped them regulate themselves, they're feeling better and you're feeling depleted, because not that it's brought you down, but it's suppressed some of your own joy, because now you're worrying about them. You're potentially, because neurodivergent children and apples don't necessarily fall far from neurodivergent parent or trees. And so this may spiral you into some of your own anxieties or OCD ruminations or other catastrophizing worries that you do about yours and your children's lives. And so they feel better because you've been able to regulate them. But now all you can do is think about all the things that could go wrong and all the things you wish you'd done better as a parent as they were growing up to support them more, or all the things you wish you knew sooner than you knew now. And that can be really difficult. I talked recently about a new diagnosis one of my kids is facing, and that has put me down the rabbit trail of learning about this diagnosis. So one of my kids is currently grappling with an OCD diagnosis. And I'm not talking about specifically the kid or how we came about that diagnosis just yet, because it's still fresh for that specific child and we're still navigating it. And I didn't know what I didn't know about OCD versus generalized anxiety disorder versus perfectionism versus all of the different things that it can look like and why and how it's so easily misdiagnosed. And so now that I'm going down all of those research spirals about that specific topic and that specific diagnosis, I'm realizing how many of the signs were there all along in this child's life. And of course, as all parents, feeling the guilt of not having figured it out sooner and gotten them help sooner. And so while I'm able to help co-regulate that particular child when they are going into a spiral of some sort, I'm then left with I can't believe I missed this. And now here we are struggling with it at a more difficult age. So when we become that anchor for our kids, it doesn't just stop there. We become their anchor regularly, all day, every day, several times a week, multiple times a month, and it keeps going on and on. And again, I wouldn't trade it for anything, because I want to be the safe space for my kids. I want my kids to know I love them more than anybody ever could possibly love them. And I will move heaven and earth to get them the support and the resources they need in order to be the successful adults they're meant to be and to reach or exceed their potential. But I still feel badly about the struggles that they're going through. And so that co-regulation that's constant can contribute to the depletion of our own emotional reserves. And then there's the invisible labor that goes into just parenting in general, running a household in general, staying at home with your kids in general, homeschooling in general, and then specifically raising and homeschooling and parenting neurodivergent kids. There is so much planning and adapting and researching and emotional processing and staying one step ahead and trying to figure out all of the potential things that could happen. I did a talk for that online conference today, and one of the things that I was talking about in that specific talk was using social stories and using role playing before going to an event when you know your kids are going to struggle at it. Even that is is invisible labor. When you get to an event, nobody realizes, just by glancing at you, all of the work that went into the setting your kids up for success in that situation. The role playing, the social stories, the planning, the helping them see all of the different things that could happen, the coming up with a signal if they needed a break, the extra tools and resources and snacks and things you have in your bag, and all of the other things based on the adaptations that you usually make or the research that you've already done. It takes so much energy, and it costs you as the parent energy. So I've been using CTC Math for years now, and I have to say, one of the things I love most about it is its adaptability. CTC gives you access when you subscribe to all of their levels. You get access immediately to grades kindergarten through calculus. So it's perfect for kids who have an asynchronous learning profile, meaning they are many different ages at once, because sometimes concepts will come really quickly for asynchronous kids, and sometimes they'll come a little bit more slowly. But CTC, having all of those levels up front, right at your fingertips, allows your kiddos to work at their own pace. If they understand something and they get the concept super quickly, they can accelerate through it and do multiple levels in one day, sometimes even getting through multiple grade levels in a school year. And then when they hit some of the more challenging math and maybe it's not as intuitive for them, they can slow down and they can take a little bit longer. It is perfect for neurodivergent families, especially those who are homeschooling asynchronous and or gifted kiddos. If you're looking for a new math program for your family and you're looking for one that is easily tailored to the kids that are in your home, the learning profiles you currently have, and it's completely affordable, one price for all grade levels for all of your family and kids, and comes with a money-back guarantee and people who really truly care about your kids learning their math, you need to check out ctcmath.com. Now, you could either go over straight to ctcmath.com and check it out, or you could head over to the show notes for this episode or in the description on your favorite podcast app and click through that. When you click through that, it automatically applies a special offer that CTC has just for Raising Lifelong Learners listeners, and I'd hate to have you miss out on that if you were purchasing. It's a great deal. It's actually the deal that we use too, because I do subscribe and pay for my subscription. I've been a customer of CTC Math for close to a decade now, and I still pay for my subscription. And I'd love for you to be able to take advantage of the same offer. So check them out, ctcmath.com, or head over to the show notes at raisinglifelonglearners.com/podcast and click on the CTC link through there, and it will automatically apply the special discount that it has for Raising Lifelong Learners listeners. All right, let's get back to today's episode. Okay, so what do we do when all of that energy is depleted? We are feeling suppressed and depressed and burnt out and overwhelmed emotionally and physically and mentally, and we just want to give up. Or we can't figure out how we're going to keep going, but we know we need to, so we just keep trudging along, further burning ourselves out. We need to have some tools in our own toolbox so that we could draw from them when we need to. One of the most important tools I can give you, and one of those ones that you can work in even if rest isn't possible, is the micro rest. So I want to challenge a common belief. Many parents think I'll rest when I have a whole day to myself, or if I can just get through this week, I'll have a couple days that I can regroup. The thing is, whole days rarely appear when you're parenting neurodivergent kids. Just when you think that you have a whole day ahead of you, so many things go wrong. I was completely and fully intending on going to the library. There's a library near where one of my kids works, and I completely planned on one of the days this week taking her to work, dropping her off at 9:30 when she had to be there, and going to the library and working until 4 while she was there, so I could get away from the house, not see all of the things that aren't getting done, just put my nose to the grindstone for those things that my brain does not want to do, but will do when I'm sitting in a place that doesn't have the distractions of the laundry that needs done, the dog that needs to be pet and taken outside, and the kid who has a question. And so I had every intention of doing that, but I had 2 other children have needs that came up that day, so I didn't get to go. Those whole days rarely appear, especially during intense parenting seasons. And while everybody says things get easier as your kids get older, or conversely, they'll say just wait till they become teenagers, the truth of the matter is when you're parenting and raising and homeschooling neurodivergent kids, every season is just a new set of challenges. They're all helping your kiddo get to the end goal of the adult that they're meant to be and helping to shape them to reach and exceed their potential. but each one has its own challenges. So during those intense periods of parenting, whether they are just always there or they spike and valley, we want to make sure that we are incorporating micro rests into our day. These are just tiny moments of nervous system recovery so that you're still giving yourself a chance to regroup, even if you don't have a whole day to do it. So a micro rest isn't a vacation, it's not a spa day, it's not a weekend away, though by all means, if you have the opportunity, if you have the resources, if you have the support to be able to schedule those things in periodically, going away for the weekend without your spouse and without your kids is totally valid. It is something that can reset you, even if you just go to a hotel room and go to bed early and wake up late and eat breakfast in bed or whatever it is. Those things are valid too. And if you can make those happen a couple times a year, highly encourage you to do. But while those are wonderful, a micro rest is something that we can incorporate into our everyday. A micro rest is 30 seconds, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. Repeated consistently throughout your days, throughout your weeks, throughout your months, throughout your years. They don't take a lot of pre-planning because they're just built in to grasp little bits of time when you have them. One of my favorite micro rests is to put my earbud in and listen to a chapter of my audiobook while I'm doing the dishes. It shuts everybody else out. And when they come in, I point to my ear and my wet hands and I shake my head and I ignore them. So a micro rest can be as simple as listening to an audiobook. It could be as simple as sitting down in a favorite chair in a dark room away from everybody else with a little book light and read a chapter of a book. It could be just sitting down listening to music. It could be sitting outside with coffee before anybody wakes up, or sitting outside with tea after everybody goes to bed. It could be closing your eyes for just a 2-minute count between tasks. It can be stepping outside for a breath of fresh air, going for a walk around your house, doing a lap or two around your house. When my oldest was young, we would do laps around the cul-de-sac on our street. We lived on a cul-de-sac of 6 houses, and we would just do laps around that circle. It could be listening to one favorite song, stretching for 10 minutes, stretching for 5 minutes, stretching for 30 seconds, breathing slowly, taking a minute, closing your eyes, breathing in deeply, breathing out slowly. Small moments count, and your nervous system notices. These small moments add up to big relief and reset over time. I promise you, if you can incorporate micro moments, micro resets into your day, you will start to see the benefits of them as you continue consistently. Another thing that we as parents of neurodivergent kids, especially when we are reaching burnout, is to practice the art of delegation. This is a skill many of us simply avoid. We have taken on the invisible labor. We have taken on the mental load for so long that when it comes to all of the therapies and all of the appointments and all of the needs of our neurodivergent kids, it's just easier to do it ourselves. There have been so many times when a conversation, like I mentioned I had earlier this week, would have sent me into a forget it. I will just make sure everybody gets to where they need to get to. You just do whatever it is you are going to do. I don't want to do that, and oftentimes it's just easier to do. Thankfully, this week, I needed to be online live 2 separate days, and so I couldn't avoid delegation. I had to delegate because there was no physical way I could get my kids to where they needed to be, and I didn't need to. There are 2 additional drivers with cars in this house that can take on those tasks. Delegation is really challenging, though, when we've done it all. So let's talk about it. Many parents hear the word delegation and think that sounds nice, but nobody's going to do it. Nobody can do it the way I do it. I'm still going to have to come up behind them and do it the right way anyway. Okay, I want you to hear me on this. And while I'm speaking to you, I am speaking to myself. This is the burnout talking. Delegation does not require perfect replacement. It just requires support. You're absolutely right. A person that you're delegating a task to is not going to do it in the same way that you've always done it. This is something I've had to learn. When my kids load the dishwasher, the dishes aren't loaded in the same way that I like them loaded. When my husband cleans the kitchen, I can't even say cleans the kitchen. When my husband takes care of the dishes after dinner, he takes care of the dishes. They end up in the dishwasher, but there's often food that still needs to be packed up and put away, and the counters are not wiped down, neither is the stove. It's not necessarily going to be done in the same way, but it's at least support to give you those micro resets so that you can keep going. Then I will say, for some of those tasks, like that kitchen example that I just gave you, it is worth a conversation about what a clean kitchen looks like so that you can say, hey, I'm overwhelmed. I have 3 other tasks I have to get done today. I would like you to please take care of the kitchen after dinner. And that means doing all of the dinner dishes, putting away the food, and cleaning up the counters so the kitchen is ready to receive the prep for another meal. I've actually been working on this for my own family because I need more support. We are in a season that I am burnt out, coming off of a season of burnout and frustration and emotional depletion because of all of the different things that our family's been going through. And I know that I need the support before the burnout I'm feeling gets too deep into too deeply transitioned into a complete breakdown. And I also know that going into a kitchen later in the evening before I go up to bed and see that only the dinner dishes were done, but the food is now ruined because it's been sitting out for 3 hours while I went and took a break, or the counters aren't cleaned off or whatever, would send me into a further spiral. I've started creating checklists for each room that I will then be laminating and putting in each of the rooms so that different people in my family, adult and child, can look at it. If that is the task I delegate to them, they can go through the checklist and have it physically in front of them. Is that more work for me? Absolutely. Is that work that most families of kids between the ages of 13 and 23 still living at home have to do? No. It is perfectly normal for a parent of neurodivergent children to need to have that level of accountability and scaffolding for things to get done in the way that they need to get done in order to contribute fully to the family. And so I've decided that I'm willing to put that work in so that I can delegate and know that it's going to get done the way it needs to get done. So what can be delegated? First, you need to ask yourself, what requires you? I can't delegate all of the tasks related to raising lifelong learners, either the podcast, the website, the Learners Lab, my membership community for families who are homeschooling and parenting neurodivergent kids, or kids that might be a little quirky and not necessarily have a diagnosis, nor are they kids that you think need to be diagnosed, but they just need a little bit more. I can't delegate all of those things the way that it is all set up right now. There are some things I can delegate within it, but most of the things I need to do myself. But what I can delegate is grocery shopping. It's not going to get done the way that I would normally do it, and things are going to get missed because they weren't able to be found. Some things will cost more than I would have spent because they either didn't look at the different brands or the different prices or buy what was on sale or whatever, but it will be done. Meal prep help. Several of my kids, not all of them, but several of my kids are able to make meals. So making sure that I am scheduling them to make meals 1 or 2 days a week at least can be a very big help for me. Laundry help. Actually, this is something that I did about a year ago at the advice of a business coach I was working with. This actually might have been about a year and a half ago now. I decided I was no longer doing anybody else's laundry. My kids were old enough. My youngest at the time was 12. My oldest at the time was 22. And I had a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old as well. they are perfectly capable of doing their own laundry. And so what I did was, there are 6 of us. I took the weeks and I broke them down so that every single person had a day, including my husband. And so every one of us has a day designated for us, and I have 2. The reason I have 2 is because I am taking on all of the dishcloths, all of the hand towels from bathrooms, all of the bath towels, and then all of the sheets and blankets and things. So giving me 2 days back to back allows me to get my own laundry done, as well as all of the household laundry. And then every other person has a day that they can do laundry, and they are responsible for getting through it. And if they keep up with their laundry and do it once a week on the day that they're scheduled to do it, they should only have 2 loads to do, 1 dark, 1 light. With the exception of my girls, they may also have a 3rd delicate load to do for some of their dresses or blouses or sweaters or whatever. But for the most part, if everybody keeps up with their laundry, puts things away right after they've dried it and folded it, then they should be able to do laundry once a week and have 2 loads. So laundry is something that you can delegate. Older siblings can help younger siblings with different tasks around the house. I'm not a huge advocate for older siblings teaching younger siblings or doing a lot of the parenting of younger siblings. I think helping them with some chores, pairing them up for things like that, working together to make a meal, playing together is wonderful and can build such a great relationship. I just always am cautious along the line of the parentification situation, where we can transfer parenting to our older kids for their younger siblings. I grew up in a situation where parentification was a big thing, and it is something that I'm still a little bit resentful of, and I don't want my kids to grow up being resentful towards their siblings, because that's usually where that parentification gets transferred to. And so we have to be really careful about how we're doing that. And helping with younger siblings and things like that is important, but doing it in the right way is even more so. Outsourcing tasks. We use a grocery delivery service. It's a little bit more money, but it allows me to not have to go to the grocery store and take up the time that it would take. It saves me time, and that's important in the way that I'm currently living. And so the time is best spent putting the groceries away and doing other things while somebody else is doing my shopping for me. Shared household responsibilities, really dividing the things up, is something that you can delegate so that everybody has either a zone or a section or a task that they do in the house. My youngest empties the dishwasher. Anytime the dishwasher is clean and finished running, that is his job. My second youngest, who is now 16, she's responsible for loading the dishwasher every night before bed and starting it. So they each have something very specific they're responsible for, but that doesn't mean they don't do other things. So we want to make sure that we're sharing household tasks, but we're also keeping them responsible for other things when possible. When we do this, we can create that family team mindset that I've talked about in the past on this podcast. And I'll link to some of the episodes and some of the posts I've done about that very topic. But instead of I have to do everything, we can try, hey guys, we're a family team. We are a team where everybody contributes and everybody has things to contribute at their own level. It builds a rapport so that everybody feels like they really have a place to contribute and that they're just as important as the other person. The last thing we need to really think about is boundaries that protect your capacity as a parent, my capacity as a parent. Many homeschool parents are incredibly generous with their time, with their resources, with their empathy, with their love. That's beautiful. It's amazing. It's what we strive for as human beings. But generosity without boundaries becomes depletion. Boundaries aren't punishments. They're protection for you and your own nervous system. So there's some examples of healthy boundaries that you can start implementing when you need to. Time boundaries. You can say something like, I'm unavailable from 2 to 2:30. Or like I did this week, I am not available between 1:30 and 3:30 because I'm speaking from 2 to 3 and I want some time before and I want some time afterwards. Emotional boundaries. I can support you in any way you need, but I can't do this for you. One of my kids was making an appointment with a coach that they're working with, and they were struggling with how to say what they needed. And I said, I can support you and help you come up with some ideas for what to say, but I can't make the call for you. And so they ended up doing that after we talked about it. Technology boundaries, not being able to go online all the time. Technology not being available to everybody at all times, depending on what your family's needs currently are. Community boundaries, saying no to commitments that drain you more than they give. So this is extremely important. If a situation is going to be draining to you, don't say yes. Really evaluate all of your yeses, because when you're saying yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And your no might be the energy to be able to be there for your family in the evening. So really think through everything that you need to. Everything costs something. Every yes costs energy. You need to protect it carefully. Energy is your most important commodity. And now I want you to really think about releasing the guilt. You know you need rest. I know I need rest. Guilt stops me, and I bet guilt stops you. Many parents struggle with that. So let's challenge this together. Rest isn't selfish. Your kiddos do not need a constantly available parent. They don't need a perfect parent, and they don't need a self-sacrificing parent. They need a parent who is regulated, sustainable, and human. Those things require replenishment. They need a real person able to support them when they need the support, but not constantly. And they need somebody who's nourishing themselves so they have something to give. If you're burned out right now, I really want you to hear this. You're not weak. You're not failing. You're not doing too little. More likely, you've been carrying too much for far too long. And it feels overwhelming to give up anything. I had a friend ask me a couple months ago, well, you need to stop doing some of this. What can you give up? And I was like, I can't give up anything. There is nothing on the list of things I do that I can stop doing. And that's just never true. Maybe you just can't do it in the way you've been doing it. Start small. Choose one micro rest practice. Choose one thing to delegate. Choose one boundary to strengthen. Not 10, not a day off, not 100 boundaries, just one thing. Because healing burnout happens the same way homeschooling happens. One teeny tiny step at a time and just doing the next right thing. I promise you, you are exactly who you are needed to be to give your kids and your spouse and yourself everything that they need. You have to take care of yourself. You have to recognize the signs of burnout and protect against it. And you need to be willing to ask for help when you need it. If you're looking for a community of other parents who totally understand this, the Learners Lab is open. You can join us in the lab. I'll be opening a new segment of the group coaching, the parenting circle that I did this past spring, soon, within the next couple of weeks. And you can join that if you don't want all of the different stuff for the kids that comes with the Learners Lab, and you just want intense focus on your parenting and the resources that you need to be able to be the best support possible. Follow along, subscribe to the newsletter if you haven't already, so you find out when all of these things are available to you. But join us in the lab. We're there for you all of the time, and you don't have to carry this alone. If you ever feel alone or like you need more support, reach out. You can reach me through the contact form on my site. You can find other links to resources just like this, other podcast episodes, other articles on the show notes for this episode at raisinglifelonglearners.com/podcast. And you can always reach out to me at support@raisinglifelonglearners.com. You are an amazing parent doing incredible things, and you have phenomenal children. You're doing a great job. I'm so proud of you. Have a great week. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.